Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shelf Space with Kino Lorber, where we talk about all things physical media with Kino Lorber's head of acquisitions, Frank Tarzi. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Nathaniel Thompson, a film scholar and critic who has done over 100 commentaries for Kino Lorber. He's also the founder of the prolific and popular review site Mondo Digital, which features thousands of reviews on horror, cult, and genre films and disc releases. He and Frank will be answering your audience questions, so thank you to everyone who submitted a question ahead of time. If you would like to submit a question for a future episode, be sure to sign up for our newsletter to get on the email list, and be sure to subscribe to the Kino Lorber YouTube channel. If you have any customer service questions, you can submit those at the link in the video description below. Hi, Nathaniel. Hi, Frank. We like to start out every episode by asking, how did you guys meet, and what's it been like working together?
Well, I was at Olive Films when I started picking up a lot of movies, and Walt and I became friends because he wanted free copies of some discs or something. I forgot what it was, but we eventually became friends. Walt Olson from Scorpion Releasing, and I think that was the first time he mentioned you, Nathaniel, and Mondo Digital, and that you wanted to get some review copies for Henny Calder and some other titles that we were releasing, and at that point, Olive was very much the person in charge. Did not want to do extras, so every time I did one, it was like I had to like pretty much fight for it. Like the Boogan's director and a few other ones we were able to do. Interviewing Clint Walker, I think that was one that I fought for. He wanted to do signature editions, which he started doing for a few titles later on and all that stuff. And I kept on telling him some of the films that not every film is going to get a signature edition because they're not worthy of it. But anyway, once I came to Kino and started the Kino Studio Classics, I think you and Steve and Howard were some of the first people that I reached out to see if you guys wanted to do commentaries. And you guys were very excited, and I love to hear you guys commentaries. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of back and forth, and Nathaniel is a great guy, but also has a lot of knowledge of film and everything else. So he's really good at what he does. So we regularly, I just offered, what it was, a couple of weeks ago, I offered you guys a couple of more movies. So yeah, so that's how it all started. And then Nathaniel, maybe if you remember something else, you could mention it too. So
I do actually. I had to go back and look at my archive because when you asked me to do this, I was like, "How far back do we go?" And I don't know if you planned this out, but the timing of this is pretty funny because we're almost exactly at the 10-year commentary anniversary of when you first asked me. It's actually about a week and a half from now. But I found the original email that
Well,
you
this
shot
might
me.
be coming out then, so it actually aligns really perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. It was really funny. Yeah, and I actually forgot my first commentary for you guys. I was trying to remember because I knew like roughly what the earliest ones were. But the very first one was Trouble Man, because you were like, "Oh, would you like to do that one?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it'd be great." And then Howard was a big fan, so Howard and I teamed up on that one. And then right after that, I asked Steve to jump on for I the Jury because he was doing the Larry Cohen doc and he knew Larry. And yeah, so it was like this whole flurry of commentaries right out of the gate. There was like 8 Million Ways to Die. And one of my very few solo tracks was The Park Is Mine. That was the first solo one I did for you guys right after that.
yeah, that's very rare for you to do a solo one, but
Yeah, it's not too often. I like the rapport, having somebody to bounce off of on a commentary when it's just me alone. It's like I've done it occasionally. I did it for Thieves Like Us, which almost killed me, the Altman film. Which I love the movie, but like it's more fun when you have like somebody else in the room, and I just think it feels more alive
yeah,
than it feels as scripted.
How do you know Steve and Howard? Like, did you all three of you know each other before you started working with the crew?
Yeah, so I think Steve kind of filled you in when you had him on the show, but the gist of it is for about 10 years, I worked for a company called Image Entertainment, which I don't know if for all the old timers listening, that name might ring a bell. They were one of the two big players in Laserdiscs, them and Pioneer. So like if anything came out on Laserdisc, it was either one of those two. But Image kind of catered more towards like the fun stuff, like the cult movies and like foreign films and all kinds of stuff. Plus, if you know your own video history, they were the ones who actually got into like the more adult fare. Like they licensed Playboy and Penthouse, which that's always the video format that wins. But so Image switched to DVDs, and that's when I started working for them. I took over from Mark Walco, who you guys should have on at some point because he's great. And so for about 10 years, I was kind of the brand manager, just producer, et cetera. And one of my favorite projects there was I did this set for Thriller, the Boris Karloff TV show. And I knew Steve because he had done some extras for a show called Combat. And I brought Steve on to basically help run it because I was doing my day-to-day job, and he like wrangled all the commentaries and all that stuff. So we were hanging out in the office all the time. And so that's how I met Steve. And, we obviously were very simpatico in our outlooks. And Howard, I actually met through Chiller, the convention that they have on the East Coast, the big horror convention that they have. I'm pretty sure that's where I first met him, I think. But he loved my site, and he wound up moving out to LA, and we had connected. So yeah, the timing was just great. And now we do a lot of commentaries, like me and Steve, or me and Howard, or me and Steve and Howard. It depends. Sometimes all three of us. And somehow we've kind of become like the French crime movie guys for Kino Lorber, which it's kind of funny. Like Sicilian Clan was one of the earliest ones we did. And since then, like, we do a lot of French crime films, which I love. It's just that wasn't a niche that I expected us to fall into, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, and I think because each one of you have a little something different to say about it. There are different reasons where you guys love those films, and a lot of times when Walt will say, "So who are you gonna get to do commentary for this one?" I would just say the Three Amigos. so so that was your nickname. You guys didn't even know that he had that nickname, but you did have that. So he was like,
Three Musketeers, but yeah.
The three heroes.
I think the Amigos is better.
The Amigos work.
The question is who's Martin Short and who's Steve Martin and who's Chevy Chase. So
we do the thing when we do Star Tracks.
Yeah. So,
Frank, how did you know of Nathaniel Thompson to reach out to him in the first place, or did you know him through Steve?
No, it was through Walt Olson from Scorpion.
Right.
He's the one that introduced me, and it took me a while to warm up to historian commentaries. In the beginning, I was like, well, a director's commentary I really enjoy, and I felt like I'm as much as a historian as anybody, so I was like, I don't need to listen to somebody else's opinion about these films. But the more and more I listened to some of them, and especially some of the ones that you guys did and other ones, and Tim Lucas, and I've mentioned that people, and I was like, no, these are really great, because a lot of times the director's commentaries are not great.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, some director commentaries were really great, like I think Frankenheimer, and I don't want to repeat it, but some directors like Sidney Pollack, they were great at talking about film, and just not the camera work or anything else, but telling you great stories and everything else. But a lot of other directors, if you don't have a moderator in there with them, it's gonna be dead silence, So, so it took me a little bit of time to warm up to the idea of hiring. So that's why when I did my first deal in 2014, we barely did any extras. So the reason. Nathaniel says the first time I reached out, it was in 2016. That's when I kind of changed the Studio Classics format a little bit more, when we started doing more extras. And right around that time, we did our Fox deal, which was Trouble Man, and we had done our, I think, second or third MGM deal. So we were like, okay, let's reach out to people, and then slowly, other people started reaching out to us, and before you know it, we have a whole, there's like 50 or 60 different people we work with right now when it comes to commentaries, so.
And Nathaniel, you've done over 100 for Kino, and then hundreds more for other labels.
Yeah.
What's your process like for doing these? How much research goes into each one?
I mean, every case is a little bit different. I mean, there are some commentaries where I'll dive really hard and dig thoroughly. Like one example I think is when we did one for Madigan, which was a film that I liked, but there's so much to it that I went over to the Herrick Library that the Academy runs. I went, and I actually hit up some friends at Universal. I really tore into the archives hard for like several days because I really wanted to do it right. And so I'm really proud of that one. But that took a lot of time. And then there are some commentaries where I don't really have to do much at all because I feel like I've kind of prepped for it my whole life. A good example would be something like when we did all the Agatha Christie films for Kino. We did Death on the Nile, Even the Sun, Mirror Cracked, and Orient Express. And, I was a voracious Agatha Christie reader as a kid. I've watched the movies over and over. I know them backwards and forwards. I've seen every version. I mean, anything Christie related, I've always consumed through my whole life. So with those, I was just like, I'm ready to go. Like, as soon as you gave them to me, I was like, I went and pulled paperwork. I pulled archives just to be sure, but I was like, I'm good. I mean, I know these backwards and forwards. So if you hear the tracks, you can tell I'm just really into it. Not, I barely looked at
Like,
notes at all. I
cool.
was just like, boom, boom, just ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really depends on the movie. And then, in some cases, I'll actually be with like one of the filmmakers, a director, an actor, or whatever, and then I'll really do a lot of work to get ready for it as well. So yeah, case by case. Could be, it could be, very minimal prep, or it could be, weeks. You never know.
What's your favorite part of it? Is it, the like you said, the background, the cultural background, the context, or is it the technical, filmmaking aspects of it, or like what are some of your favorite things to research?
I think it's just when you find out stuff you didn't know. Sometimes you think you know a movie, and like the further you dig, you're like, oh, this is crazy. I had no idea. Like you guys just announced, The Kiss Before Dying, the remake with Matt Dillon, which I did with Steve, and I had seen it when it came out, and I knew the book, I knew the original movie, I knew it pretty well, but really pulling all the old paperwork on it and like really spending hours sort of soaking in. There was so much about that movie. I had no clue about the production of it. And it was just fascinating to kind of piece it all together, like the process of how that movie came together and just how complex the shooting in London was and it was and the casting process, who else was it up for it, things like that. You're just like, oh, you just kind of like stumble on things you didn't expect. So I love that part of it. And of course I love it when the commentary goes out in the wild and people hear it. I just love getting feedback and hopefully people appreciate it. You can't control critics, but I think people seem to enjoy them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are some people that love you guys' commentaries whenever we announce something and says, and then there are some people like, can you guys stop working with these guys? Like, so we get a little bit of both of them. So I personally love listening to you guys' commentary, so that's not gonna stop. So,
Thank you.
Point
but
about
the
like
the other thing is the other thing that I want to mention is that have you ever had a situation where you've actually created a script for your commentary? Or do
Yes.
you just take notes? Or so because I know like some people just go off a script. They just write the whole thing ahead of
Yep.
time, and then but when it's 2-3 people together, you do bounce stuff off each other. So I think a script is probably less needed than the one doing if you have to do one by yourself.
Yeah, I don't
So
do a full script. I know some people really like to do that. There's no right or wrong process with it. I mean, I know like Tim Lucas does great tracks, and he likes to have everything scripted out to the syllable, which works. I don't tend to stick to it because I like to sort of think about the movie as I'm doing the commentary, and sometimes I'll surprise myself. One of my very favorite tracks I ever did for you guys was for a movie called The Hunting Party with Howard. Which was a movie that always fascinated me, and I had a lot of notes. I had a lot of prep done for it. But if you hear the track, you'll listen like about halfway through, like all of a sudden, like stuff starts dawning on me, like ways to read the movie that I hadn't thought of. And so it's kind of a mixture. It's partially outlined very thoroughly or I want to hit certain beats, but then I kind of like stop and I'm like, wait a minute. And you can actually hear me sort of like try to pull the movie apart live on the track.
yeah,
So it's kind of fun when stuff like that hits you, and you kind of like, oh wait, you have these little epiphanies while you're recording. And I kind
it's
of love
it's
moments like that.
it's like when you watch a movie for the third or fourth time, this, all of a sudden you notice something. You're like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I had never noticed this and this, that. So it's kind of, I guess it would be funny to do. I tried to do one, okay, and I was going to, because it's one of my all-time favorite movies, but it's really long. So I did the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and I think I got about 80 minutes into it, and I was like, I don't know what else to say about this. So, and I think that's a movie that, either you got to be a professional like Tim Lucas that could talk wall to wall, or you got to be I love Alex Cox, but Alex Cox pauses and chooses certain spots to talk to. I guess I could have done it that way, or I could have gotten a partner, somebody come in and sat down and we could have talked. But, hopefully maybe one day, maybe you and I will do one, Nathaniel,
Yeah.
so
Pick a shorter movie.
take a shorter movie. We'll pick a spaghetti western that's 90 minutes.
Yeah, there's plenty of those. Death Rides a Horse.
Yeah. So just if Howard is watching, we're going to be reaching out to you too soon, Howard. You're going to be coming on the show because I had Steve last year, and now we have Nate and Howard.
Put
You're
all
next.
three on, so all three amigos.
Eventually, we'll have all three on, but right now we're going to go one by one. So
Yeah,
Eventually.
figure out a way to sync it up where we're all in New York at the same time, and then we could do like a big live one. That'd be great.
oh yeah, if he's there, that'll be good. If he's in I know he said he was thinking about coming to New York soon. So I told him I'll take him out to lunch or dinner. So and then so the main thing is that every time I acquire a package of films, and I'm going to be producing less and less discs eventually, but I'm going to still have the same people doing what I wanted one done. So you're going to have other people, reaching out to you, Nate. But at this point, we just signed a small Paramount deal, and we reached out to everybody. There's some films that are just perfect for certain historians, and then there are films that I just reach out directly to you guys first and say, hey, and then sometimes I send you guys a long list of films and say, pick your favorites, So it works both ways, but. There's been times where I've actually told somebody. I think there was maybe a few times where I've asked you guys to do one. I was like, I want you guys to do this one if you can. And you guys have, you were not thinking about doing it. Eventually, said, okay, let's look into it and do it. We're going to do it. The great thing about working with you guys and like Lee Gambit, who passed away. Poor guy was really young and everything, and there's some other people. Is how quickly you guys could turn a commentary around. Yep. Some people need a long window, and because especially the ones that
What is your time process? Like, what is the time frame usually
for me? It again, it depends on the movie and about how much prep it requires. Also the time of year. Like right now, you'll notice like I haven't recorded a ton the last couple of weeks because this is 2 days before the Oscars that we're recording this. So this is like my busiest time of year. So people kind of know like not to throw stuff at me like around mid-February to like early March. So
well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, this is fine. I mean, you hit me at the right moment because this is like now I've kind of finished my work for now until the weekend. But yeah, again, it's it depends on the movie and how much I want to do it. There are times when Frank is said, "Oh, this is a tight turnaround." I'm like, bust my back to try to make it happen if it's a movie that I want to do. But usually I'd like to know at least a month out just so I can, have the time to actually do the research, because you have to like hit the libraries, you have to hit the studios and like pull all this stuff. And it takes a little time and you want to do it right. I don't want to rush it and have it be sort of like a half-baked track. But if it's something that I feel like I can do justice to right off the bat, and when Frank sends the list out, maybe I surprise you sometimes with what I choose. I'm sure a lot of people got kind of thrown when I got on my knees and begged to do Xanadu. Which, well, if people know my tracks, you're like, what? Like, why would he ask for that one?
I was just gonna ask, like, are there any films that were outliers of? Because usually, obviously, you love horror, you love
Yeah.
cult, like westerns, things of that nature. But yeah, like the Xanadu's. Were there any other unexpected titles you did?
Yeah, there's a few out there. I know. I did The Apple, which I was dying to do. Actually, that was one that Walt actually brought me onto. Because like, oh, Catherine Ray Stewart's in town. Do The Apple. I was like, oh my God, like in a heartbeat. Tell me when and where. I'll do it right now. But yeah, there's some like Lords of Discipline I actually wanted to do because that was based on a Pat Conroy book, and I knew like one of the big Pat Conroy scholars. And again, it's like sort of prestige '80s drama. People wouldn't normally expect me to jump on that, but I really wanted to. So Xanadu was the big one though. That was
your Xanadu track was great. It was really really good, and that was one of the situations where we did not go out thinking we're gonna have 4 commentaries.
I couldn't believe when the specs came out. I was like, in what world do we live in where Xanadu has 4 audio commentaries?
Because Michael Felsher had approached Sam Deegan to do one. I had completely forgot about that. So when she sent me an email saying, "Hey, here's the Xanadu commentary," I was like, "Whoa!" And then I was gonna do one with you and I forget her name.
Jennifer Clymer, yeah,
right, Jennifer Clymer. And then we were gonna do one with David Delvell because we kind of campy and fun and everything. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then at the last second, the director said, "Hey, I would like to do a commentary." So we got Douglas Hosdale to moderate one with him. So, and then out of nowhere comes the Sam Deegan commentary that I had forgotten about. So I was like, whatever. So why not? Let's have 4 commentaries.
And they don't really overlap. I think they're all good tracks. So
no, I think so. I think everybody had a different, reason why they wanted to do the film. So
yeah.
And I think, Nate, you would say that if you're really familiar with the movie and you really love the movie, the turnaround will be quicker because you don't have to do that much research. Right. So sometimes I go with them with a really cool movie and say, "Hey, I need this in 2 weeks." Like I went to Steve and I said, "Steve, right? you want to do Hang 'Em High? Here it is, but I need it fast." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it." So.
Yeah. I mean, it kills me when I have to say no to a track if it's something I want to do, but sometimes it'll be too tight where I'm just like,
Right, right.
like I'm going on vacation. I just can't do it, But yeah, if it's something I want to do, I'll do anything possible, just to be on it because I want to do it right. But I also want the right person to do the track. I mean, there's some cases where I'll be asked to do a track and I'm like, fine, but there are other people who could do it better. So, I want
Right.
the right commentator on the right movie. I mean, like you'll
I,
you'll never hear me do a war movie track because the two Steves, Mitchell and Stephen J. Rubin, like they know everything. And
yeah.
like I would never even think about doing a war movie because like they've got it covered. Or like I don't really do Hong Kong or Japanese films because I love them. I think they're fantastic, and I did the Shaw Brothers line and image, but other people could just blow me out of the water. Like I'd be
Right.
embarrassed to even try. Just so you gotta know your limits, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as Clint Eastwood says in Magnum Force, man's got to know his limitations. So,
That's also very generous of you to kind of like want the right person for the job instead of just being like, give me all the jobs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've turned down plenty where I was like, I could do okay, but I really want the right person on that movie
well,
'cause it just
there's the trust I have with Nate, because I know he's not just gonna do something because I want to I want to do this because it's a job or whatever. Because there's nothing I dislike more than when somebody says, "Oh, yes, I'll do this," and then when you hear the commentary, they're not really the commentary is kind of negative towards the movie, and I'm
yeah,
like, well, why did you pick this? And I just reached out
Hmm.
to somebody to see if we wanted to do one of the comedies that we picked up from Paramount, and he was like, well, I kind of like the movie, but I'm not a big fan. But this other person is a huge fan of the movie. Why don't you reach out to him?
yeah,
And I was like, well, thank you, that's great. And I emailed because there are times I've heard commentaries where I was like, why was these people even hired? Like because they're just very negative towards the movie, and the person buying the disc doesn't want to is a fan of the movie, and they don't
yeah,
want to
Right.
hear your critiques of the film.
It's not an
Uh, you know,
enjoyable experience.
yeah,
especially with the easy. Sometimes some films are very easy to pick on. You could easily, stuff from the '80s is very easy to make fun of, but
Like, that's not the point.
that's not the point, right? Right.
yeah. Like
Uh,
Xanadu. So I'm glad everybody was very positive on those tracks because
Hey,
yeah,
there are people that swear by Xanadu, just like
yeah,
people love Grease stew. There are people that think Grease stew is better than Grease. So,
more of like a cult film. Yeah.
yeah, I
Fun.
personally enjoy the heck out of Grease stew. I think Grease stew is like so much fun.
I love Grease too so much.
There's no way it's as good as Grease, but I, but I think I could probably watch it more because of how crazy it is. The
Well, it's
songs are the songs are horrible but fun.
they're so
uh,
catchy though, and I mean, well,
yeah,
it's Grease flipped around though because
yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer alone is reason enough. Like I think she's so great in the movie. Like people who trash Grease too, I'm just like, but it's got Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh
Like
yeah, and then she was like, I mean, she was so beautiful in that film. I remember when I saw that as a kid, I was like, "Who the hell is this? Like, where did they?" I could not believe it, and I loved it. And when I saw it in the theaters, I loved it. I thought it was like a lot of fun. I knew that it wasn't as good as Grease. I was like, Grease is really well made film, and has some really good songs. By the Bee Gees and other people have written songs for that film. So, um,
So the
but
point is that you recognize that and you can still celebrate it, and that's what I feel like every commentary should be is a celebration of that film. It's a lot of
yes,
knowledge, but
yes.
it's also yeah, so, like, negative ones, I'm just like,
Like the
"Why?"
person that does a commentary for Xanadu or Grease too, I want them to be fans of the film. I want them to, know the songs and all of that. Just like Staying Alive. Staying Alive is considered like a horrible movie by a lot of people. I released it on 4K. I personally kind of like it. There are some people that really love it. I know David Delvaux loves it. There are some
mhm.
people that think they would rather watch it over Saturday Night Fever, which I could understand it because Saturday Night Fever is kind of depressing. It's kind of a dark film. Um, but I know some people, I don't think my sister will be very happy for me to say this, but she loves Staying Alive. Like Staying Alive is like one of her favorite movies. So,
You should do
uh,
the commentary for
yeah.
that.
So the thing is that every film has its fans, and I don't like using the word guilty pleasure because there's nothing to feel guilty about. If you love a film, you love it, and we all know that the person that loves a bad movie loves it for the right reasons.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah. And to me, like if you're getting enjoyment out of it, I don't consider it bad. Like
Right.
I mean,
I completely agree
it could
with
be
you.
absolutely
Right.
ridiculous. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
bizarre, but like to me, it's a bad movie is one that I just don't engage with. Where I'm just like, God, please just end this already. I'm so bored. That to me is a bad movie.
It's like when you watch Mystery Science Theater, right? The best episodes are the films that are fun.
Yeah.
When they get a really bad film, like a really, really bad film, where the robots are like going, "Oh my God, what is this gonna end?" and all of that. Those are not very watchable episodes. You know, they're not the best. The best episodes is where they do the girl with gold boots and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Because those movies are so bad that they're so much fun to watch. The overacting and everything else is great. So
I mean, movies that are so bad become cultural like phenomena, like The Room. They become events that like gather people around, you know? Like
Hmm.
it's there's a reason why bad movies are great.
And
I love
sometimes you can actually like misremember things or forget about them. Like a good example is a movie that you guys released on UHD recently, which was Airplane 2, which I hadn't seen since it came out. I think maybe when it first hit HBO. I hadn't seen it since then. And I remember it being okay. And I got the 4K in, and I was like, and I had a friend of mine, I was like, oh, do you want to sit down and watch Airplane 2? And he's like, nah, that movie's terrible. And I was like, okay, how long has it been since you've seen it? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, just watch it, you know? And so we put it on, and like 5 minutes in, he was like, this is great. Like, what's wrong with me? Like, this is, and we were both just like laughing our butts off. And of
yeah,
course, it's not as good as the original. Of course not.
yeah. I
There's
felt
no way
this.
it could
I
be.
felt the same way because when I watched it originally, I was comparing it to the original, and the original was like, it was like comedy on steroids. There's
Yeah.
nothing else like it before or after. Oh, the Naked Gun, first Naked Gun is like right up there with it. Um, but Airplane 2, the fact that the Zuckers were not even involved, it
Yep.
kind of catches the whole aura of the original film, and it does some great stuff. Shatner's great in it,
Chat
and
is amazing.
Chad Everett is the kind of villain, sleazy villain guy is really good,
Yeah.
and Hayes, and the rest of the cast, they're all like, I thought it was in the whole 2001 thing and everything
Mhm.
else. I agree with you. I think it's really, really good. So
Nathaniel, do you want to tell us about Mondo Digital? Talk about that a little bit and how that started
Sure.
and yeah, take us through the journey.
So Mondo Digital was a site that I officially started in 1998. And again, if your memory goes back that far, the internet really started to kick in around 95, 6, somewhere in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was really hard to you couldn't really go to school and take a class on how to build websites and that kind of thing. Really, it hadn't quite kicked into that point yet. So I just kind of taught myself along with a couple of friends. And so I noticed that obviously, around the end of the 90s, that's when DVDs kicked in. And I was still collecting laser discs and VHSs and that kind of thing. And this transition was happening. And I was like, there were these general review sites that were starting. It was like DVD Review, I think, and maybe Digital Bits had come along at that point, maybe later. But they were all very like mainstream review sites. It was all, it's like reviewing, Die Hard, Alien, Blazing Saddles, that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, they're not really covering the weird stuff. And it's like, I don't just want to be horror, just anything that's like not in the mainstream. So like art films, just stuff that you can't quite define, stuff that's a little bit outside of the major studio stuff. And I'll do major, I'll do studio stuff as well when it merits it. But I just wanted something that sort of captures the really low and the really high, all the stuff that tends to get overlooked. And so it started off as a mixture of Laserdisc and DVD reviews because DVDs were just kicking off. And there's nobody else really still does that exactly. We've had a lot of horror review sites, but again, it's not really quite what the site is, because I just like to sort of champion stuff that sort of tends to get overlooked. Just like I said, just the weird stuff.
Mhm.
But now the weird thing is that after I'd been doing it for a few years, then Harvey, who runs Fab Press in England, he reached out about doing like a book of it, which was called DVD Delirium. And I wound up doing 4 different books, which are much expanded from the website. But they're kind of like history books now because a lot of the history of the format has been lost. Even if you go online and try to find out, like, when did this first come on DVD? What were the extras? What other countries did it come out in? What were the specs? How do they compare to each other? And so it's originally it's supposed to be like a buyer's guide, and now it's more like just sort of like it's sort of like so you can look back and see where'd it come from? What is its history on home video? Which is kind of cool because it wasn't how I intended it, but it's actually turned into something that it wasn't. So, and now I've got reviews that I keep updating now, like, stuff like, I just did like Tinto Brass is the Key yesterday, which, that review started off in like, 2001 or something, and I've gone back and rewritten it again. So,
Wow.
it's just kind of interesting. I keep going back to certain movies and just sort of like updating it, but I'm glad that it's there to sort of like somewhere you can have a record of like what what this movie's journey has been, since the late 90s. Because otherwise, like I said, it's kind of like lost to time.
Yeah. How many are there now, like on the site?
How many reviews? Oh my
Yeah.
God. I mean, it's over 10,000. I don't even know anymore. I can't even, if you look at the review page index, it just goes on and on and on
I
and
know.
on
I
and on.
was trying to
Yeah.
get a sense. I was like, there's no way I could calculate this at
Yeah.
all.
I lost count a long time ago. It's
It's
gajillions.
was
You
it
know,
oh,
when
yeah.
you did Mondo Digital, it was like my early days at Kino. That was my first time around at Kino, where I came as a director of sales and eventually got involved in acquisitions and all that. But a couple of years before that, in 1995, we opened Mondo Kim's, which was
Mhm.
the last big Kim's video store that we opened. So I was the head buyer for Kim's Video at that time, and it was like I remember us coming up thinking of a cool name because we had that Kim's Underground and Kim's this. So
What the
finally, we were like, "How about Mondo Kim's?" Because we used to have Mondo Kane, the film. So that came to my head, and then it was funny because Mr. Kim took credit for it, but it was so here I was how we were all sitting around the table, and I was like, "How about Mondo Kim's?" And he kind of ignored it, and then we went around, and like 5 minutes later, he goes, "How about Mondo Kim's?"
It was subliminal.
So everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, we're like, yeah, that's a good one. So
It's a great word. You stick that Mondo in front of anything and it sounds better, I
yeah.
think.
It's true. Well, does the number of reviews correlate with your collection? Like, do you have that many? Do you own all of those, or like just about all of
Oh,
those, or the majority?
oh, I have way more. So
Oh, never mind. Okay.
I
Nathaniel is
actually,
Of your collection.
he's a big time collector. He's
yeah.
he's a serious collector. It's like
Wow. We're
uh
gonna have to maybe like have you show us your shelfie. We
like
used to have a show us your shelfie series at Kino Lorber for our social. So maybe we'll have you submit your shelves. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll have to do it. Although some people might disappointed because obviously even though I live in a decent sized house, I don't have room for everything. So a lot of stuff, especially boxes, I keep the discs like cataloged in sleeves, and I have the boxes are in my storage unit. I mean, I have everything indexed, but like after a certain point, you're just like, I don't have any more shelves. Like I just can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've had to. I mean, like I don't throw anything away. Like don't come in with pitchforks. I don't trash my boxes or my slipcases or anything like that. I still have them. But yeah, after a certain point,
Eric Wilkinson has a very cool library. He set it up in his apartment, in his house, in the basement. It's set up like almost like a video store.
I'd love to do
That's
that. Yeah.
yeah. But you need, like you said, you need space. Living in New York and Los Angeles, place like that is very hard to get. They need the kind of space you need. So
Yeah, like if I had a huge basement, I would make my own video store. Like I would just get some video
yeah.
store racks and just go to town and like
That
build
would
it.
be
Yeah.
so cool. How
Uh,
many do you have in your collection? Do you know?
It is actually. Hang on, I can tell you in a second. Oops. You're not gonna believe the number when I tell you, but hold on. But I do keep it up to date. It is 29,536.
Holy crap!
Almost 30.
Yeah,
You
almost
wait
there.
to 30. Come on.
I'm working on it.
Only 29,000.
By end of this year, will be around 30, I would say.
Yeah, it will be. It will be 30. Yeah, probably by the end of summer.
You
So
should start doing
are you counting the re-releases as one? As you counting by film or by how many
By
actual
release, it's yeah,
by release?
by not by disc, by each individual item. So
Right.
yeah.
by each SKU number.
So there are some movies you have multiples of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there are like some movies, like I think like some Dario Argento's like Opera. I think I have like what 9 or 10 different versions, or like Phenomena. I have like a jillion of them because I don't want to get rid of the old ones because they have different extras or there's different little quirks about them that I want to hold on to them for. So yeah.
My older brother was a collector like that. Like he would have, like if he also loved, he passed away a couple of years ago. So he loved Alain Delon and Jean-Paul Belmondo and these the spaghetti western, like Guliana Gamma.
Yeah.
Was a huge fan of those guys. So when I went through his storage unit, like after he had passed, and I saw like the same movie, he had like 10 different versions: the Japanese release, the French release, the British release, the American release. I was like, it's crazy, like to actually have. But he was a collector. He loved it. He loved having all of that. So.
Yeah. And it comes in handy. I mean, I still get people call me like, "Oh, do you have the original DVD of so and so? Because we need there's a line of dialogue that's not on the other releases." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll pull it for you and give it to you because you never know." I mean, the stuff always comes in handy.
Do you loan out your titles to like businesses or people or organizations?
If it's local, if they need to borrow it, yeah, I'll run over there and do it. I've definitely done it for the Academy. I don't know if other folks here, if they need a, if they need to
Also,
reference
you were
something.
very helpful with our release of Road to Selena, where
Oh yeah,
you fixed some of the issues that were there on the master that a non. I mean, I was not that familiar with the movie, so there's no way I would have noticed it, you know.
yeah,
But I'm pretty sure Walt would have noticed it, and you noticed it. So, and you
yeah,
guys,
and that's a good case because like the licensor would insist, and you're like, no, it's also negative, it's complete, and I'm like, there's a line missing. Like I know it's only 2 seconds, but it's a big line at the end of the movie.
That's
I'm like,
incredible
please
that
put it
you
back
know.
in, please put it in. So yeah,
and then you did it. You actually digitally sent it to us, and we inserted it into the movie. So,
yeah, I was like, yeah, it slugs in like right here. It's only like one line of dialogue, but it changes the whole ending. Like you got to have it in there.
Now, do you only have discs or do you have VHS too?
I still had some VHSs. I've culled a lot of it down, and for my laserdisc too. I had to sell a lot because they're so heavy. I mean, I lugged those things around through college, and they like nearly broke my back. So after a certain point, you're like, I can't do this anymore. So, but yeah, the ones that I really treasure, I still have like quite a few. Again, mostly in storage because VHSs and laserdiscs they take up a lot of room.
yeah,
But
Even Hulk.
I remember going to Virgin Megastore when they were getting rid of their laser discs, and I was in Los Angeles and I saw a $9.99 sale, so I bought 2 bags. Oh my God, carrying those on the airport and
yep,
on the plane, it was horrible. But they because they waste so much, you know.
exactly.
Uh,
That's why
Yeah.
people who still do vinyl collecting, I'm like, hats off to you because I just cannot lug those things around anymore. It's just too
yeah.
heavy.
Do you have also a vinyl collection
I have
or
some, yeah. The stuff that I really treasure, yeah. I probably have maybe like a couple hundred vinyls, but I'm like, I can't do the whole like die hard, like, oh, buy every reissue on vinyl and pay $45 for it. I'm like, no, I can't go there. Sorry. Like, my movie addiction is enough. So
like one thing at a time? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Um, well, before we get to audience questions, Frank, do you want to congratulations on your Saturn Award win? Yeah. Woo. Tell us about it. Tell us about your time at the ceremony and what you won and
Um,
everything.
I think this is my maybe 4 or 5.
How many do you have
I
now?
think we've won about a dozen, but I think me personally with my releases, I think we've won about at least 10. This was for the Pink Panther Peter Sellers collection, the comedies that we released on 4K. Um, Usually when I go to the award show, if I'm there in person, they call me up on stage to accept the award, but the show went on forever this year. So they just said, congratulations, Frank Tarzi, for your award. I was like, oh, what? I'm not going up. Then I was a part of me was like, oh, cool, I'm not going up. I don't have to worry about stumbling over my speech. My speech is always short. Um, but this was like, I mean, Tom Cruise was there, and
I
this
saw
year,
with James
and
Cameron
James
and
Cameron and
Gyllenhaal.
Gilmore, George Lucas, and William Shatner's always there, so it's always great to see him. And he's always funny. Mark Hamill is usually there, but I guess we've been nominated a lot and we've won a lot, but I think I've gone to maybe 5 of them. So a couple of them I've sent other people to pick up the award. So that's where it's been. So, but we had, I know when we won one for Miracle Mile, I asked Steve DeJarnette to go pick it up and he was very happy to do it. Then he asked me if he could keep the award, and I was like, "Can he give me can I keep this one? You guys get another one, or can you get me one?" And people at Saturn were very nice to reprint another one for us, so
Oh,
he
that's
could keep it. So we kept. And I remember the same thing happened with Our Limits. We had somebody else pick it up, and
Did you get to
uh,
meet anyone interesting this time, or who do you normally like look for?
they used to see us in an area where we could meet a lot of famous people, but in the last couple of years, they put us in the back. So it's been the same group of people.
Very small, like
They're
the
all,
industry.
I had a great time with them. There's always, but yeah, it's a fun show. It's been around for a long time. There's a really good vibe. A lot of like some people are great, get on stage. They make Jack Black when he was on a couple of years ago. He was great. And I remember going on stage like my heart beating because I was like, I was not ready to be. It was the first award that time. It was the first time I ever went to the award show, and it was the first award they announced was my award.
Really?
And I was like, what the fuck, you know? So as I'm walking
Great.
up on stage, I'm like, bum, 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 you know, my heart is beating. But now I'm more prepared for it. It's like it doesn't take the long live physical media always gives a big cheer. So
Nice. Who do you normally thank in your speeches when you win?
I usually just thank you, Saturn, you know, for the continued recognition, and we love classics, we love remastering them, and thank you for you know, that's pretty much it. And then I just say long live physical media. I don't thank anybody else. I mean, I guess if it's a release like Miracle Mile, where the Journette was involved from start to, if I was the one picking it up, I would have thanked him. But in most of these cases, I'm the producer of these releases, so I'm not gonna thank myself.
You're still
I guess the crew that I work with, I guess I could do that, but
Well, that's very exciting. Congratulations.
well, thank you,
Do you want to make any announcements or updates before we move into audience questions?
Mm, we just signed really you know, another Paramount deal. Do I want to? I guess yeah, I would say so. King Creole, the great, probably the best Elvis movie. Michael Curtiz. We're gonna release it on 4K. You know, we're gonna put that out on 4K, and we got a really cool audio commentary that we're planning to record, and we're also restoring the trailer, so it's gonna look great, and um, so that's coming out sometime in the next few months. So.
Cool. All right.
Grateful.
Shall we get into audience questions? So, some of these are for both of you. Some of them are just, I would love to hear both of your thoughts on these, and some of them are release related to Frank. The first one is from Corey Walker. He's asking, it seems that we are seeing an overall slowdown in physical releases by boutique distributors. Is this simply because the number of available IP is shrinking? I remember, I think it was Bill Lustig was talking about this too, like a while back, but what do you guys think?
Well,
Really?
I there's more labels now than they were
Yeah.
now before. So, um, you know, there's so much to not everything could be released on Blu-ray, and not everything could be released on 4K. So, and I probably have released a couple of hundred films for the first time ever on home entertainment, like for titles that had never been out on VHS. They made their home debut on Blu-ray, which is insane. Um, but also some of the studios kind of closing their vaults at this point. That's also a reason where in the past, if I was, you know, we had done a Disney deal, we had done a Fox deal, we had done MGM, we had done Paramount, Universal, Studio Canal, small Lionsgate deal, small Sony deal. But a lot of those companies are not licensing titles anymore. So, and you know, people always ask us about Warner Brothers, you know, and I'm like, well, we've tried with Warner Brothers. They have not been interested in doing a deal with us, and hopefully, more, you know, that changes one day, and you know, we'll be able to release some cool Warner Brothers titles because they have so many cool, you know, so many great titles, you know. So
Nathaniel,
So
what
I
are your
think, yeah, I think I mean, if there's a slowdown, I haven't noticed it because I'm getting stuff in my mailbox every day. It seems like it hasn't slowed, but the only slowdown I've noticed is because it's harder to replicate. There are just fewer plans that do it, and so there tends to be backlogs and stuff gets stalled a little more. So it seems like the flow has kind of gotten jammed up a little bit.
yeah, missing street dates and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday's been getting missed a lot. As far as IP goes, I don't really. I think there's still thousands of movies out there that haven't been touched. I mean, just this week they're recording this alone. Just in the past few days, we've had announcements of last summer from Warner Archive, which I thought would never happen, which is a miracle. And Open Season, the Peter Collinson film, just got announced today, coming out in France. So, you know, I mean, there's tons of great movies that haven't even been touched at all since VHS. So, you know, I don't think we're anywhere close. I mean, we got years and years to go before that well runs dry, I think. But yeah, I think not getting the Fox library has been a problem. I think mainly because it's so untapped. There's so much left to do. And I hope that changes. I hope Disney loosens up because they're just, especially like the 20s and 30s and 40s stuff in there that never hit video at all. I mean, there's so many great movies that I really hope that they change their mind and like loosen up and let other labels, do some editions of those because they really deserve it.
But overall, the answer is it seems to be no. So Corey, rest assured, uh, you'll be fine.
We are releasing less movies a month per month than we used to. The rate that we were releasing stuff, and 5 6 years ago, I think I had months where I released 32 33 titles in one month. That we're never going to get back to that. Because I want to, I don't want to, I don't want to kill myself.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was good for my health what I was doing. So, so
Um,
but yeah, but I think overall, if with all the other labels now in the business, no, I don't think there's less titles coming out every month. I think it's probably close to what it used to be.
John White is asking, I have been reading many articles recently on how Gen Z seems to be embracing physical media more and more. Frank, I think I shared one of these articles with you from the LA Times. Have you read anything about it, and what is your opinion on that? They are buying vinyl albums when available, or music CDs and DVD and Blu-ray discs. More than one Gen Z have said Amazon or Apple can't come into my home and take my movies, and we don't actually own any of our digital media. Thanks so much. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I think I've been seeing that more and more too, not only in, like, mainstream media, but on social media and other places.
Well, I think millennials had embraced vinyl. Vinyl was their thing.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
hipsters and all of that. They embraced vinyl. I think discs. When you have some great directors like Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro and people like that come out and say, now since then other people, like Spielberg and Cameron, that to really, if you love a film, own a copy of it. You have it forever on your shelf, and for you can watch it whenever you feel like watching it. I think I see a difference between. I think the Gen Z are more open to collecting, and they are embracing physical media at a much higher rate than I think the millennials were. So, and I don't know, Nate, if you agree or not, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm really glad that the Gen Zers are embracing CDs. I've been hoping for a CD comeback for a long time because it's my favorite format. I'm a Gen Xer, so it warms my heart to see people buying CDs again because I always thought that was so nasty the way people
Columbia
just
House.
yeah. It's like yeah.
Those
Then people are
days.
like, oh, CDs are so passe. I'm like, but it's the best. It's so easy.
yeah, I agree with you. Listen, vinyl was, it was great. I loved the sound of a needle hitting the vinyl, and all that is great. But CDs were so easy, so simple, and digitally remastered. When
Yeah,
when a record got remastered, you had never heard Elvis
yeah.
sound like that. When an album was fully restored. So no, I agree with you. The CDs were great. I think it's a format that should be brought, as it should be brought back the same way vinyl was.
Exactly. I
So
think there's room for both. They
yeah.
should both exist equally, I think. But no, yeah, you're right. I think a big wake up call for a lot of, especially for Gen Zers, was especially a couple of years back when they realized that a lot of streamers were yanking shows off that never had physical at all.
Uh,
So you would suddenly have shows that even that Netflix or Hulu ever owned, all of a sudden they would just yank the show and you couldn't see it at all, and it was gone. Like the Grease TV show was like yanked off Paramount all of a sudden, and they're like, "What? It's your show. Why are you taking this off?" Or they would go back and they would start like tinkering around with stuff, like when Netflix went. At Stranger Things, they went back and they started messing with the soundtracks for the first 3 seasons to make it match the new season. They started adding sound effects and messing with them. People are like, "What? No, what are you doing?" So I think people are starting to resist the fact that that these companies have the right sort of alter the media however they see fit. And it's like, no, I want it the way I saw it. Which kind of goes back to the Star Wars trilogy originally when George Lucas went back and changed stuff and people like started throwing fits. I'm like, this is not the movie I saw. Like, give it back. So I think Gen Zers have really tapped into that and they realize they don't want how at risk, our movies are, that we want these the way that we saw them. We want this to be preserved. If you want to make a new special edition, fine, but don't erase the old one. And that's why they love having these on disc, I think. And if you go to stuff like a turn like the TCM festival, tons of Gen Zers, they love seeing the stuff. Yeah. Yeah, they love seeing the stuff on the big screen. They love seeing the people who made the movies. So I just think it's great. And yeah, I just hope it keeps accelerating because I love seeing new generations embrace these movies.
Me too. Did you see the LA Times article? They interviewed the folks at Vidiots. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with Vidiots in LA,
Hmm.
and Cinephile, also I think in LA.
Yep.
But yeah, it seems like there is a huge growing trend, and I hope it continues. And I think it's really exciting for people like us and our business and the
Yeah.
industry in general.
Just to add in LA, what's kind of cool, especially I've noticed the last couple of years, is you see a lot, especially a lot of Gen Zers, millennials, even Gen Xers are going to what these sort of like I don't call them like sort of pop-up theaters, but people are making like in office buildings, people are making their own kind of
Oh yeah,
theaters
like
where
little
they're doing
cinema
like specialty
clubs and
screenings.
like
Yeah, they're
yeah.
like movie clubs. Yeah, they're all over the place. Like even more than like people will go, they'll go to the movie chains, they'll go to AMC or whatever if they have to go see like the new Christopher Nolan or whatever. But they're really going to see these revival showings at these little pop-up theaters, and it's so
Totally.
cool. It's the best way to do it because everybody's kind of in the same mindset. Everybody's all jazzed up, and it's there's something kind of just really special about it.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, also, like, in the face of, like, the ever continuous consolidation of streaming and, like, prices going up and ads popping up, like, I think people are just, like, burnt out. We're just
Yep.
burnt out on streaming, so, yeah. Very optimistic, question there. Um, Nate is asking, "Any plans on putting out more spaghetti westerns?"
Um, well, yeah, but again, like I said, it's most likely, um, most of the key ones have been released already. So there's a few out there. The lesser known ones are very hard to sell, and the only way they may work is if we get them for a smaller advance and put them out as a collection. So that's something we're looking into. I know we re-released a couple of our spaghetti westerns from Studio Canal as we call it Volume 1, and Volume 2 will include the Django movie that we announced a few weeks ago, and we're gonna try to probably put another movie in there, so that's gonna be at least coming out. We're gonna re-release a title that's not technically a spaghetti western, but it's very much in vein. Is Borquero. I've mentioned that's something we're gonna repick. Alex Cox is a big fan of that movie. He wants to do a commentary. I think Steve is a big fan of it too. So Steve Mitchell may reach out to you, Nathaniel. So we may include two commentaries on that one. And
Cool.
then Cox also wants to do a on location. He knows where that river was and everything else.
Mhm.
So he did one for us for a few dollars more, which was really great. So I always enjoy watching those things, So, but no, if the right films pop up, I would love to do the two Trinity movies. Like, is the question is who I'm not really sure who owns those right now. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's stuck in that mysterious hen's tooth situation where nobody seems to know if they still have it or not. I
well,
think.
I don't want to, hence to did license it from somebody, but I don't think they own the rights to them. So.
Yeah.
But I think the same company that owns the Trinity films also has Superfuzz. So, and I think Crime Busters probably too, which is probably one of the best Helen Spencer movies. At one point, I was looking at doing My Name Is Nobody, but just Alfredo Leone, the film elements and everything was not up to where we want it to be. So, I would love to revisit that and think about releasing that as people have asked us to do a Fistful of Dynamite. It just hasn't been, docusucker, let's call it what it was originally called. It just hasn't been a strong enough title for us to take a chance on 4K, because that's not a typical restoration. That's going to be very, very expensive because it's going to be done in Italy, and a lot of people are going to be involved. So that's another one. Maybe Arrow, us, Park Circus, and MGM could get together and pay for a master, and they would release it in the UK, and we would release it in the US. But they may want to get both rights, so I don't know.
And John Ingleside asks, this is for both of you. I miss the days of second run theaters, which sometimes played double features. My first double feature was Living Free / Silent Running. Do you remember your first double feature or a memorable one?
Nate, do you remember yours? I
I
can remember. I can remember my
Yeah,
favorite ones, but I'm not sure the first one. The first one's very hard.
the first one I remember, it was actually at a drive-in, and this was like in the my memory doesn't go back much past the late 70s. That's when I first remember going to the movies, but for some bizarre reason, I don't know why, but we went to the drive-in. It was kind of rainy, but it was a double feature of Moonraker and Godspell. I have no idea what psychopath put those two together, but, but I remember very vividly.
A lot of times it was a studio. Like I remember French Connection 2 playing with this. I've seen pictures of it. French Connection 2 with silent movie, and because they're both Fox, but who the hell put those two films together as a double feature? Like, I remember seeing Grease 2 with Paternity, the Burt Reynolds,
Yeah,
because they're both Paramount.
yeah.
But there were some really bad ones too. I remember, well, I wouldn't call it a bad one, but just the E.T. with the Outsiders. That was like a strange double feature. But the
Are these
really good,
like organized? They just like they're like just there's no theme or anything, but
no,
get
because you used to go to the Grindhouse theaters. You would have 6 movies. I mean, sometimes you would have 4 movies playing for the price of 1, or 3 movies. When they would have the 4 Dirty Harry movies together, that's a great ticket. You're just going to sit around. The crowd, the Times Square crowd, is going to eat it up. They're going to be cheering, and it's so much fun watching a movie with that crowd. But sometimes they would do one where it would be a blaxploitation film, a Charles Bronson movie, a Shaw Brothers film, and then a 4th movie that they thought was an action film, but ends up being a drama. So when we were watching it, people would start booing, and they would actually turn off the movie and put the next and make it a triple feature instead of a quad feature. But the best one, I would say, was when I went to see Terminator, and they put in Escape from New York with it.
that makes more sense.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was like, okay, this is badass. Or when you would go see, when I saw RoboCop, they put The Thing with it, stuff like that. Those are great double features. One of the really cool one was when I went to go see Exterminator 2. I was too young to see the original. I had never come out. I had never seen it. I was too young to see Exterminator 2 also, but by that point I was tall enough to go into theaters and see R-rated movies. But when I went to see it in the Grindhouse, they put the original with it, so I got to see both movies at the same time. So that was a good one.
We have a question from Molly is asking, "Hi, Kino Lorber. I love seeing the women collectors on your social recently. As a woman collector, I often feel left out of the conversation, so it's awesome that you're representing us. Are you looking into acquiring more films that appeal to women collectors, particularly, again, young women collectors? I am somewhere between Gen Z and millennial."
That's great. I want, we love the fact that, here's the thing. On a lot of times online, I know there's some women that post stuff on brewery.com and stuff like that, and people are like kind of saying, "Oh, is this really a woman or not?" Because they just cannot fathom that, like a person, like I know I have friends that worked at Kim's Video. The people that working on the floor, the people that were the managers, they were big time collectors,
Yeah,
and they, so there is I know it's overall it's dominated more by men, but I think I love the fact that women are looking into collecting and having, and so we want to add something up on our website about people making suggestions of movies that we should release, especially newer stuff that I'm probably less familiar with. That we would look into that and see what we could do. So
I think people will be very happy to hear that. That's awesome.
Nate, what you had something to say about that, or?
I'm just curious because I'm just based on my going to film festivals, stuff like TCM, stuff like that. I mean, there's a huge female audience, but it seems like they watch everything. I mean, they love film noir, they love rom-coms, war movies, whatever. So I'm curious, like, what a female collector, what does that designate? Because I mean, obviously as a male collector, I mean, I have tons of rom-coms, musicals, so like I like what is that they love. I'm just curious, like what the demographic would
Right.
be.
I mean, a movie that we put out that kind of reached out to the younger generation was Bottoms, because it was a movie that came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And maybe she's meaning films like that.
Yeah.
That,
But
or me personally, if you use me as like a one person focus group, like I grew up, I was born in the early 80s, so, like, everything my nostalgic period is the 90s and, like, maybe some early 2000s, and, like, yeah, I like stuff like Bottom's newer stuff, but, like, I would love to see stuff from, like, the early to mid-90s, um, stuff like The Craft or, like, Empire Records or these, like, formative, films that I grew up like, when I was, like, in middle school, these were the films that I watched. I feel like a lot of women would also want films like that. That's just, like that's my
But
opinion.
Alicia, you're also a fan of like genre titles, right? I mean, you
Yeah, I
love
mean, I
stuff.
like everything, but, like,
You love The Crow. You love,
I do love The Crow. I love a
yeah,
lot of horror, so, like,
yeah.
there are a lot of women like me who love horror, who love things like that, but I think just I'm speaking in broad strokes, I guess, just, like, in terms of nostalgia and, what, like, girls my age.
When I was a buyer at Kim's Video, we had a lot of female employees, and we also had female, and we had managers. And my friend, I haven't spoken to her in a long, long time, but she was a manager over there. Her name, Christy. She had like a crazy collection of films, and she was the second she found out I was a big Warren Oates fan, she became because and she loved Peck and Paul, and she loved Warren Oates and stuff like that. And that was like, wow, I was like, so, this is so cool that a woman that enjoys these movies and doesn't say it's too violent or too something like that. So so I kind of agree with you. It's like I don't think there's that much difference between when it comes to taste, when it comes to films that we release. I think a movie like Stone Cold could be viewed by a male audience and a female audience, and they'll love it for different reasons, or for the same reasons, because it's a crazy movie that
Yeah.
you're still like, how the hell did some of the stunts get done, and how did they not kill people? Because it was like it was so like it's so many crazy explosions in that movie, and it was done in a real town. It was like I mean, those were the days because it was directed by an ex-stunt coordinator, who's still is a coordinator now. You know that he only, I think at that time, he directed 3 movies in a row: Action Jackson, Stone Cold, and I Come in Peace. And I love all 3 of those films because they're insane. They're like so the action sequences and the stuff is so over the top, but they all have like something, like they all have soul. There's something about them that makes them more than just a typical action film. So
Yeah, I mean, I see both of your points that, like, there isn't maybe that much as much difference as people might think between, what appeals to men versus women. Maybe it's more of an age thing, like the different generations. But I mean, I would be very curious to see how people fill out that online form. And yes, I definitely don't think
the
women
one
stay
the
away
one
from
f-
violence. I just wanted to
the
point.
one I think a couple of genres that women are not big. I think is more it's war films and westerns. I think westerns are not usually supported as much by women as I would say when it comes to genres.
Yeah.
But I think the crime films and the action films and stuff like that, I think they're loved by everybody. So
Yeah, I mean, and think like stuff like Heathers. Think like the very, very kind of like the movies that inspired the Bottoms, that inspired the Mean Girls of like, the newer stuff. Like those are the films that I think would really sell really well.
yeah,
Or
but
like
I think Heather's was loved by everybody, like men and women. So I don't think it was a situation where. But I know what you're saying. Films like Mean Girls and Bottoms are very much inspired by Heather's. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
want because of what when you were just like it triggered me when you said about your nostalgia period, and to me there's still like a huge dead zone of catalog titles that nobody touches, unless it's like a major one like Clueless. But like from around like '94 until like the early 2000s, there's so much stuff, movies that were huge hits that haven't even gone past DVD. I mean, the fact that we still don't have a decent scan of Fried Green Tomatoes or a good special edition like blows my mind. Because it's such a great movie, and it
I
was
was
so
saying,
crazy, and they haven't done it. Or like The Truth About Cats and Dogs, huge hit, never passed DVD.
oh, that is such a good movie, yeah.
It's like, why? I mean, like, there's
Well,
all these movies, it makes no sense.
I could tell you one of the main reasons is because usually dramas and comedies don't do great on Blu-ray.
Mm.
They were really, I think VHS did it great, DVD did it great, but when it came to Blu-ray, Blu-ray was really more about picture quality and sound and everything looking so much better than it did before. And a movie like Fried Green Tomatoes, which I think is a really beautifully shot film, has great performance and everything, should come out. But unless a restoration is done, to pay an advance and then on top of it to pay for a new restoration, it just makes it more riskier than me doing Tommy Boy, you know. So because Tommy Boy is a comedy. We didn't do Tommy Boy. We did the Black Sheep.
Black
But
Sheep.
so the main thing is that when it comes to comedies, like kind of intelligent comedies and romantic comedies and stuff like that, they don't do as well on Blu-ray as something that Adam Sandler or Chris Farley would star in, you know. But again, so many people have asked me to do Mask, you know, because it still hasn't come out in the U.S. I think on Blu-ray, and I know that we looked into it and it wasn't available. Somebody has it, but it's not a film that's gonna do great on Blu-ray. Whenever I've released like some really good dramas, you know, I'm not gonna say, but you know, like people, I don't want to do. Somebody say, well, that's not as good as Mask or whatever. Forget about your taste overall. But when we've tried similar type of films, you know, I'll give you some examples. Like, you know, when we've done the Milagro Beanfield War, which is a really good little film, or Cry Freedom, or anytime we've tried stuff like that, it just hasn't sold as well as something
Well,
like
maybe there are more and more younger collectors and women collectors. Maybe that will change as this trend continues.
I hope it does, because that would open a whole batch of films that people have skipped on as now possible releases for us, you know.
Yeah, actually, someone asked, Paul Trigwell asked, hey guys, is there any chance of doing a 4K release of the 1995 Christina Ricci film Now and Then? I think this is a perfect example of one of these titles, right? I loved it when I was a teenager, but there's never been a Blu-ray release, let alone a 4K one. It's such a great film, and it's New Line Cinema, so would that be possible in the future?
Well, it's New Line Warner Brothers, so for us, it's not available to us. But even if we were, I don't think I would release it on 4K. I'll be honest with you. A Blu-ray release, potentially, if it was remastered. This is a situation where a lot of people have their own favorites that they, you know, ask us to release, and we've done a lot of those type of films. But most of the ones that we've done, because there was already there was an existing master and the advance wasn't too high, we've taken a chance to put them out. They've not done well for us, but I would continue to do them if they were still available for those rates. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Well, we have time for probably one or two more. This is a great question from Kenneth. Question for both Nathaniel and Frank. If you could rewrite the ending to any movie of your choice, which movie would you alter and how would you change the finale?
wow, that's a deep question. I have to think about it because there's some endings I really dislike. But Nate, you want to go first?
Oh, I'm gonna get some hate mail for this one, but because I love the movie until the last 5 minutes, I would alter the ending for Dead Poet Society.
Really?
It always felt like it was trying to be an uplifting ending, and I always felt so depressed because I was like, Robin Williams' life is ruined. These kids are stuck with a horrible teacher. Everyone's gonna be miserable at the end of the movie. I'm like, I wanted a little more at the end. I need to know that Robin Williams is okay, because I don't think he is. And it always bothers me at the end of that movie. You know, he's looking, he's like, thank you, and it cuts, and I'm just like, oh, it's so grim. You know, like,
Big dramatic ending, yeah.
yeah. I'm like, so yeah, that ending is just it always just kind of sticks in my throat a little bit. So if I were gonna redo an ending, that's I don't know. I would go back and tweak it. I need a little more to that ending. It doesn't quite work for me. And I again love the movie. It's great. Love Peter Weir. Fantastic. But yeah, that's the movie that I would go back and I've just yeah.
That's a good one.
I can't think of one. I agree with you about that. I remember when I saw the documentary on Back to the Future, where they said Eric Stoltz never kind of got the film when he was originally cast in the Michael J. Fox role, and one of the main reasons was that the ending. He's like, that's horrible. He missed his whole life. Like
Yeah.
and when you think about it, he's right. He is right about that. The fact that yeah, he's now living in a house and has a Jeep and all that, but he never experienced any of that. You know,
Right.
he didn't experience living in that life with his parents and all of that stuff. But if I could think of one, and this is again, I'm going to get killed for this. I respect it, and I wouldn't change it myself, but I would have loved to seen a version of To Live and Die in LA without Peterson dying. You know, William Peterson not getting his head blown off like with 20 minutes to go into the movie. I still remember seeing that in the Times Square Theater. An African American gentleman got up and said, "He's the fucking hero." He was like so pissed, like he was like so angry, and I'm not one that like you would love to see a lot of the older movies where it was kind of like part of the whole rule that the bad guys couldn't get away with stuff. You would love to see a version of The Killing without the bag opening, you know, or Asphalt Jungle or whatever some of these movies where the character kind of gets away with it, you know. But I would say, yeah, to Live in LA was one that I would love to see a version where he and the Diane Frugal could kind of end up together, and it's a more uplifting ending, you know. So,
John Pankow doesn't go totally evil at the end.
yeah, and John Pankow doesn't become this evil cocksucker.
Well, I feel like that's probably a pretty good place to end on endings. Thank you so much, Nathaniel, for coming on.
Thank you.
A lot of fun. And yeah, we hope that maybe one day we'll have all three amigos on at the same time.
Three Amigos do New York. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. So
Three amigos take Manhattan.
exactly. Escape from LA. Three amigos.
Well, we have to get Howard on first. So Howard, sometime this year, Howard will be coming on the show first, and then maybe late in the year or maybe early next year we'll do a Three Amigos reunion. So,
Or we
Excellent.
can go to LA. Frank and I can do a field trip.
maybe that would be, we could shoot one from LA. We could have a round table, you know.
Yeah,
You can literally come any time of year. It's going to be gorgeous.
I was just gonna say the weather is gonna be nicer there. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you to those who submitted your questions. Thank you, Nathaniel, for being our guest today, and Frank, as always, for helping to keep physical media alive. You guys can find some of the titles we discussed today, along with thousands of others, at kinolorber.com. The link is in the description below. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already, and be sure to follow us on social. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.